Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to be talking about the coverage events that actually matter in the primary race and in the general election. Right. So basically, right now we're in a 24-hour news cycle, and the news is going to cover as much as they can cover to give good, exciting pieces to the American people. Right now, I'm in the same boat here. I'm trying to cover the election, right? To cover all the major events that matter, right? And so one of the things that I recognized is, what's the juice, right? What are the juice events, right? Now, what do I mean by the juice, right? So there's a great movie called Heat with Al Pacino and Robert De Niro, and there's a character in there. He's a compatriot of Robert De Niro. He's on his he's on Robert De Niro's heist team, and he says, for me, the action is the juice, right? The juice is the exciting parts, the parts that matter, the part that's everybody's there for, right? And there's so much coverage right now that is people covering stuff that doesn't matter, right? Now, I'm going to admit to you, I'm part of this, right? Yesterday, I did a mapping of the Umbrella Academy members to each of the Democrat primary candidates, right? Right. So, and the reason for that was none of these events were happening. So there really wasn't anything to talk about, right? So just be aware, anybody who does coverage, you're constantly trying to cover the juice, the stuff that matters, but it's very hard. Sometimes there's nothing going on and you have to wait. And then you have to talk about things that matter less or don't even matter at all, right? So it is doing coverage is hard. There's without a doubt. Okay. All right. So let's talk about what are the juice events? What are the events that actually matter? First, I'm going to give an example of a complete non-event that was just reported. I think it was like the New York Times, I think it was the New York Times, did a story saying that Michael Bloomberg might run because Joe Biden might run for president, even though he already officially announced he's not running for president because Joe Biden had a scandal, right? Now, this is interesting in that and their point was that Joe Biden had run the numbers and he did not think he could beat that Michael Bloomberg had run the numbers and think he couldn't beat Joe Biden. Well, one, Joe Biden ain't running, so nobody should be making any plans based on somebody who's not running. That's ridiculous, right? And then two, I felt like this New York Times story was such a huge non-story because they're literally doing an entire piece on someone who was saying, who there is speculation that they might run after they already officially declared they shouldn't run. So one, complete non-story, and then even beyond that, even if Michael Bloomberg decided to run, it would absolutely not matter. And the reason why is you can't have as your first candidate action or as your first perceived candidate action, right, that you quit before you even started, right? That Michael Bloomberg has already declared to the world when it comes to the presidential race, I am a quitter, right? So you quit, great. Even if you enter back in, we still know you're a quitter. You only jump back in because somebody was like, oh, hey, Michael Bloomberg, I see you, put your toe into the water over there. It's great. Come on in, right? You can't do that, right? He's a quitter. It's a complete non-story. All right. So what are the real events, right? It's THEESS, THEESS. There are 6 actual events that should be covered by every major news outlet and me. Of course, I'm not a major news outlet. And every minor news outlet. So here they are. Okay, so TH, that is tag and health. Okay, I'll define each one of these. EE, that is entry and exit. Okay, and then last is SS, and that is stance scandal. All right, now I'll define each one of these. One moment. Excuse me. All right, so TH. Oh, you know what? I think I'll start with EE, right? Entry and exit are very simple. okay? Entry is when any new candidate enters the field, right? So right now, Joe Biden is the main entry point, right? Like, everybody wants to know if Joe Biden is actually going to enter the race, right? Now, him speculating and hemming and hawing, that is not a story. That is not a piece, right? When he enters, that is a real piece, and we will really talk about him, right? All right. Exit. When you exit when you exit out of the primary run, that is real, right? That is a real, actual event that should be covered. So exit is, and that's going to start to happen at some point where people are just like, I'm burning resources, I'm burning time, this isn't fun anymore, I'm going to exit the race, right? And so that should start happening fairly soon. Those are incredibly important, very real events, okay? All right, so you got entry, exit. All right, let's talk about scandal and stance. Scandal is the most depressing of all of these by far, but anyone who's running for president has the absolute possibility of being hit with of a scandal erupting, right? Because every single moment of their life is going to be gone over by tens of, if not hundreds of thousands of reporters, right? And they're going to do everything they can to find the most shocking, entertaining, exciting tidbits of what happened in your life. And then shocking covers the bad stuff. And they're going to put it in front of the people. It's going to happen, right? Now, there are very real scandals. That does happen, and it can happen to any candidate at any time. If they've done something wrong in their life, that can happen. There are also scandals, which is a fake scandal. A good example of a scandal was Obama when he was president. Fox News did this piece about him wearing a bicycle helmet. So they actually put up a picture of Putin shirtless on a horse right next to Obama riding a bicycle and wearing a helmet in a park, right? And they're like, oh, our president looks terrible. He looks so dorky. He's riding in a park and he needs a bicycle helmet. And here's, Putin, the leader of Russia, just riding around on a horse, no helmet, no shirt, right? And you're like, oh boy, right? Like, that's a scandal. That is a fake scandal, right? By the way, I have a lot of sympathy for President Obama. He absolutely did look like a dork in that helmet, but not because he looked like a dork in a helmet. Everybody looks like a dork in a helmet for bicycling. I am a huge bicycler. I love to bicycle. I do I bicycle every single week, except during the winter. It's wicked cold. And then I do these 2-day bicycle adventures. I go to Boston and New York and Philadelphia. So where else do I go? Baltimore is a good one. Philadelphia, a lot of different cities, right? Stay in Airbnbs. It's a whole thing, right? It's an adventure. I love it. And I wear a helmet, right? Now, the helmets are terrible. They make you sweat. You absolutely do look like a dork. They're just terrible, right? But the reality is, you do look like a dork, but when you hit a car door and you flip over that car door, or when you plant your wheel into an old sewer grate, or into the lines of an old sewer grate, or when you plant your wheel into a freshly rutted, freshly trimmed rut between the sidewalk and somebody's trimmed lawn, your bike's going to flip, right? And you can crack your head open like an egg, right? So you really got to look like a dork. My advice for reducing dork look is the best way to do this is wear a skateboarder helmet, right? Skateboarders absolutely detest helmets even more than bicycle riders, even more than BMX riders. And so they've made their helmets to look the coolest. The best one is the independent helmet that essentially was worn most of the time by Bob Burnquist. It looks like a bowl that a goth would eat cereal out of, and it's as close as you're going to get to a non-dork helmet. All right, so sorry, that was my side issue there. Big bicycler, and I'm very, very pro helmet. All right, so that's a scandal. There are real scandals. I am not looking forward to covering scandals because I think it's just it's frustrating. But it is an event, and so people need to talk about them. And you need to talk about them with respect for both the accused and the victim. Until everybody knows what the reality is. So you have to be very very careful as you proceed forward. Scandal, it's by far the most difficult of all the events to cover. Okay, let's talk about stance. So when someone takes a new stance, that is a real event. Okay, I did a study of every single stance that all 15 of the Democrat primary candidates have taken, especially the things they did that are off the Democrat book, the Democrat playbook, that are either go above and beyond what the general Democrat playbook is. The biggest one was Marianne Williamson. The biggest one I saw was Marianne Williamson supports $100 billion for reparations. That is a shocking stance in that no one else has said. Lots of candidates have said, I have sympathy for reparations. I will be considering reparations. But Marianne Williamson put a number on it. She supports $100 billion for reparations, right? Now, I'm not even going to touch, whether she's right or wrong on that. What I'm saying is it's news that she has taken that stance, right? Also, like when things like the Green New Deal come up, it's news when as soon as something like the Green New Deal comes up, basically they'll be around where all the reporters see where everybody stands on these events, right? So, they'll go to Yang and they'll say, do you support the Green New Deal? They'll go to Elizabeth Warren and say, do you support the Green New Deal? So stance matters, right? And then also, when events happen in our actual lives, like if there's a mass shooting, the reporters are going to run and say, what's your stance on gun control, right? So stance matters. I think that is a real issue. And now it only matters when a stance changes, right? So if reporters run over and say, what do you think about gun control after a mass shooting happens, right? If the person says, I think the same thing I did yesterday, it's not really a news story in any way, right? So stance matters when stance changes. It's a big, big deal, right? So stance is in there. Entry, exit, scandal, stance, tag, and health. Okay, tag. I'm using the term tag the way boxers use tag. A strike to your head or your body. Okay, a quick strike. So these people are opponents. They are trying to win. All the 15 of the Democrat candidates are opponents. They're trying to defeat each other. They're trying to win the camera, control the camera, get primary votes, and defeat their opponents, right? And so they're throwing jabs. They're throwing hooks, right? And when you hit the body or the head, that's a tag, right? So one of the best examples of a tag I've ever seen was Bernie Sanders was in 2016, and somebody came out and said, hey, Bernie, we know you've been doing good, but Hillary's ahead and you're way behind. There's been talk of her candidacy offering you the vice presidency. What do you think? And Bernie Sanders immediately came back and, without hesitation. I think he thought for about 1 second, and he goes, how would she like to be my vice president, right? And then it was a great line when it was said live on air. It was a great line when all the Muggle, news coverage actually, covered it and showed the footage. And then it was the best line ever when somebody memed it and dropped Snoop Dogg's da-da-da-da-da. It was really, really funny. It was a tag. It was a blow right to Hillary's face, right? It was like, bam, right? It caught on. People covered it, right? That's a tag, right? Now, it's important to remember you can tag yourself, right? You can throw that hook, and and their right comes up, and then you hit it in your own jaw, right? That happened with Howard Dean and his scream, right? So you could tag yourself. So tags are when one opponent delivers verbally, right, a blow to their opponent, on the head or the body, right? And it happens. I love to see those things, and that's why everybody watches debates, right? Because that's where you're seeing, left, right, jab, uppercut, uppercut. It's all attempts to get a tag. Okay. The last one is health, right? Americans care about the health of their president. They want to know going in that you have vitality, right? That you're going to be around, right? Perfect example of this. I did not want to bring this topic up, and thankfully Joe Biden brought it up. So Joe Biden, there was another news article by one of the major news outlets that talked about Joe Biden's camp right now researching ways that they can reassure the American people that putting Joe Biden in as president, right? His team was discussing this. Ways that Joe Biden's team could reassure the American people that electing a 76-year-old person is a good idea, especially considering that if everything goes as planned, right? Yeah. So one of the things they were saying that Joe Biden's team was considering having him declare when he ran that he would only run as a single-term president, so that the oldest he would be 80 years old. 80 years old in the presidency, arguably the most stressful job on the planet, bar none, right? And so, because, and the idea is, I think the American people think, well, we know this job is hard. We've watched people take it, and then it looks like they're aging by the day, right? Because it takes a toll on the body and the mind and the spirit. That last one I'm adding in there. Nobody else has to sign on to spirit. I think it takes a toll even on your spirit, right? But we know for a fact this takes a toll on your body and your mind. It is incredibly difficult to remain healthy. And so the American people are thinking, well, we know that this job is going to take strips off of you, right? And we want to know that you are robust and healthy going in, right? Now, so health is hugely important, and it is absolutely covered very, very carefully by the media. So basically, anytime there's an event that shows someone is not as healthy as they have been projecting, or not as healthy as the American people would like them to be president, that's going to get covered, right? Now, that one is a lot like Scandal. I feel a little, guilty covering people's health, right? But the reality is, I do, I'm going to say, this is my take. I definitely invite people to correct me if they think I'm wrong on this. But once you declare that you're running to be president of the United States, right? Essentially proxy king or queen of the world, right? You are really making your health a public issue, right? And your health in that, specifically in that you can do what the job requires, right? Because we know that this job strips the mind and body of vitality. So you have to have a reserve. You have to have a reserve of mind and body there, because we know it's going to get taken away, right? Some percentage. And so what happens when your mind and body go through the rigors of the most challenging job that exists in the modern world, right? And so, so health is definitely in there. So the real juice, for me, the action is the juice, right? The juice, the events that matter, the juice events, right, are tag, health, entry, exit, scandal, stance, right? Those are the things that matter. That's what I'm trying to focus on. I would like to do coverage for every single candidate as they hit those events. My apologies to you now for the nonsense days when nothing's happened, right? And you have to listen to me map all of the candidates to the Umbrella Academy, to the members of the Umbrella Academy. I did have a lot of fun doing that video. Right. Thank you very much for listening today. Have a wonderful day. Please consider liking and subscribing.